We begin here in Germany, which is just a day away from getting a new government. All three of the parties involved have now formally signed off on their coalition agreement. Olaf Scholz will take over as chancellor on Wednesday as Angela Merkel bows out after 16 years in office.
Finally, time to sign. 10 weeks after September's election, the three parties who want to renew Germany have put pen to paper. The somewhat unlikely grouping has had to put aside some significant differences to come up with this agreement. It's a sort of marriage contract setting out ways to make Germany greener, fairer and more modern. If the good cooperation that these parties had during the formation of the government continues, then it'll be a very, very good time to achieve the tasks that lie ahead of us now at the beginning of the 2020s. One of the incoming government's key issues, the pandemic. With a newly established crisis team, the government wants to break the current fourth wave and ramp up the country's vaccine rollout. Next up, climate change. By 2030, the parties want to phase out coal if possible and ensure 80% of electricity comes from renewables. The government also wants to make becoming a German citizen easier by making naturalisation after 5 years possible, or in special cases, 3 years. In terms of foreign policy, it'll be mostly business as usual. The coalition says it'll continue a values-based foreign policy with strong EU ties. When it comes to China and Russia, though, there are signs of a tougher approach. Incoming Chancellor Olaf Scholz says he's worried about the Russian troops massing on the border to Ukraine. So it must be very clear that it would be an unacceptable situation if a threat were to arise for Ukraine, and that there must also be clarity among all those who are discussing this issue with each other. With their political agenda for the next 4 years signed, sealed and delivered, it means a new government can get straight to work this week.
Let's get acquainted now with Germany's new government. And it's a government of firsts, starting with the makeup of the cabinet. 8 women and 8 men. At the top, you see him right there, the new Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The 63-year-old Social Democrat has been in politics for 40 years, and he has served as Angela Merkel's finance minister. His big selling point? I am the candidate of continuity. Then the other striking appointment, 40-year-old Annalena Baerbock, incidentally, the co-leader of the Greens. She will be Germany's first woman foreign minister. She wants to put human rights at the heart of German diplomacy and wants to take a hardline approach on China and Russia. Then another striking appointment, Karl Lauterbach. He will become Germany's health minister, and he will have to hit the ground running. He is facing the massive challenge of dealing with a devastating fourth wave of the pandemic that is currently washing over this country. He's an epidemiologist, so he is qualified, obviously, for the job, but can he strike the right balance between lives and livelihoods? And then veteran and former Green leader Cem Özdemir, he will become agriculture minister. He is Germany's first senior minister of Turkish descent. Well, Mr. Scholz and his cabinet will be sworn in on Wednesday. Let's try and find out more about this new government that is going to be sworn into office basically 24 hours from now. DW's political chief editor is Michaela Köffner. All right, Michaela, they've got their work cut out for them. What are some of the massive issues that they will have to tackle on day one?
Well, I was wondering whether I should start with what they plan to start with or what they will actually be starting with. What they actually have to start with is the fourth wave of the pandemic that has hit Germany pretty hard, with quite a few hospitals unable to care for all incoming patients basically being flown across the country. And that will be a day one issue for Olaf Scholz once he is elected tomorrow by the German parliament and then sworn in. He will, in due course, be finding himself on Thursday in yet another crisis meeting with his federal states. The overarching aim is a huge transformation of German society, including a total drive for investment towards a greener economy. And the aim, and I stress the aim, is to essentially square the circle, to have a climate-friendly economy that's still competitive and creates lots of jobs, plenty of potential for inner coalition conflict as well.
All right, well, let's talk about German foreign policy. A lot of people will be interested in whether this new, very young and first female foreign minister of Germany, will she take Germany on a different path when it comes to German foreign policy?
Well, rhetorically, she has done in the past. She's also vowed to install a more feminist foreign policy, a human rights-based foreign policy, which she described as a paradigm shift. Arguably, others still in office would protest that and say that that's exactly what Germany is already doing. But I just come out of a press conference, an hour-long press conference, including Olaf Scholz, who, after all, will be Chancellor. And it came to key issues like what Germany's response will be on the brewing conflict with Russia over its buildup of troops in Ukraine, but also in China. He had a very, very cautious approach. 3 times he was asked whether Germany would join in the boycott of officials going to the Beijing Olympics. He simply wouldn't be drawn on that, pointing to the fact that that needs to be carefully considered and he isn't actually formally Chancellor yet. Well, the hour is ticking down. He will have to take a stance on these issues, and it will be very, very interesting indeed to see how much conflict there might be between Chancellor Olaf Scholz and a Green foreign minister on a clear human rights-based approach, less cautious of what the economic impact of that could be.
What are Germany's big foreign policy issues, Michaela? Do you see some tensions brewing there between the Chancellor and the German foreign minister, incoming German foreign minister?
Well, Annalena Baerbock is also explicitly critical, and her whole party is critical of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that directly connects Germany with Russia for gas. Most of Europe hates it, this project, saying that it destabilizes Ukraine. But it was a social democrat project of a former social democrat chancellor to begin with. So that's already an inbuilt conflict into this government. But the overarching agreement remains. It's Europe, Europe and transatlantic relations for German foreign policy.
All right, Michaela Köffner, DW's political chief editor. Thank you very much.